Hi there. This is Jo Zuleika, founder of Women Who Lead with Heart, coming on for my weekly live where I love to connect with people in my group and share a little bit of a training or teaching or just to sort of relate with leadership topics and what it's like for us who are grappling with so much right now. And last week I talked a lot about positivity and how you can increase positivity in your life. And this week I was posting about how positive thoughts can lead to positive outcomes. And what I want to start with is maybe just a story, because this last week, as I've posted, has been one of the most challenging weeks ever. And certainly in terms of a work construct, if we want to just talk about my career or my role as a leader, easily the hardest week that I think I've ever had at work. I work in travel, many of you know that, and travel is nosediving. It is not the time to try to find a job in the travel industry. And indeed, for many in our industry, there is less work or no work. And so the quick and dirty, upshot is that we had to lay off a lot of really good people on Monday because we're experiencing a rapid and stark, stunning, staggering downturn in business. The kind that could actually really make a business fold. The business I work for will be resilient, and that's not really the concern. But there's no way, the way we were going, could we continue with the plans that we had. We thought that we were going to be a certain size and take a certain number of guests on vacation, and we needed a certain army of staff to be able to achieve that. And it was really apparent starting last weekend that was not going to be our reality. And so after a series of some really exhausting weekend meetings last week, a week from today, we decided that we were going to do layoffs. And it happened so quickly, we almost didn't have time to process it. And so I just wanted to tell a little story about my week. So Monday, I went to work knowing that I was going to have to say goodbye to some really good people, and also supporting a lot of other managers in their process, because we don't have a lot of practice in laying people off. Not most industries do, unless you're in HR or you're sort of a pro at that, and that's what you specialize in. We're not that accustomed to firing people or laying people off, and so we don't do it very well. We don't know how. I actually have some knowledge about that sort of thing, and so I was supporting a lot of managers as they were creating the messaging and having the meetings with various people that they needed to lay off. And so that was Monday. And then Tuesday actually got worse. Tuesday cratered. Tuesday, the very small team that supports the owner of our business had a lot of conflict and some really tough internal strife that really was like throwing a grenade in our team, and we just sort of split up for a little while. It was a real fracture feeling, and I think we all just sort of got really internal, and I couldn't work, I couldn't think. I was feeling very threatened. The upshot was we were wondering if we were going to have jobs too. And it's hard when you have to be a leader, and when you have a hard message to give to others. It's even harder when you're frightened and triggered and feeling alone, and you can't talk about it with anybody, maybe your family. But there was some stuff going on that really put us all into a tailspin. And some of my closest friends at work that I work with in the office that were dealing with the same thing, even we couldn't really look at each other in the eye and talk about it because it's pretty bad. Just feeling like, I was kind of going into this mental tailspin of thinking like, maybe I need to leave this state. Maybe we need to go back to the place where I have land. Maybe we need to sell all our cars. Maybe we need to homeschool our kids. I mean, just radical thoughts that weren't hysterical. They were actually grounded in some real strategy, because if I don't have a job and my husband's sort of underemployed, we're going to have to do some serious recalibrating of our whole lives. So that was Tuesday, if you're tracking. My staff that I support is international and around the world, and I had put myself on call to be able to support anybody night or day during this coronavirus epidemic, because I have people who are displaced and working with our clients like on multi-day adventures. And as we were wrapping up our final tours, it was getting higher and higher stakes, where more and more states were feeling like they needed to close their borders, or they were closing their national wildlands, their parks, their museums, and still we were leading tours, and still our clients were on vacation. Things were closing up, but it sort of was feeling sort of like this mesh of like, when should we just pull the plug and everybody run home? Is this a safe place to be? And a lot of my staff was experiencing this really weird feeling of trying to offer a great vacation for clients as we were also starting to move towards the door. And so a lot of my staff, the tour leaders that work in our department, were really understandably feeling mixed about doing their jobs and wondering if they were doing the right thing, or if they were just exposing these small communities that they were traveling into with people from all around America, and whether or not that was the safe or right thing to do. And they needed my support. So much so that being on call, I received a phone call at 3 a.m. between Tuesday night and Wednesday morning, when one of my tour leaders was having a panic attack and feeling like she couldn't breathe and feeling like she had shortness of breath and thinking that maybe she had the virus. I could tell that she didn't. She didn't have a fever, but I could acknowledge the fact that she was having an anxiety attack, and that it was just too much for her to cope with. All of this uncertainty and trying to live this duality of, leading a vacation for people simultaneously while worrying for everyone's health, her health, and the moral ambiguity of whether or not we should be even running tours. And so we talked for about a half an hour to that was my responsibility, to be able to provide a touch point for her when maybe she had few. And but it wasn't a very pleasant 3:30 a.m. back to bed moment, right? That's okay. That's what I do. So I thought to myself, well, I'm going to reset my alarm, because I don't think I'm going to get up at 5:30 and go for a run at this pace. I think I'll sleep in a little bit. So I set my alarm for 7 a.m. And for those of you who are local, I live in Salt Lake City, Utah now. At 7:09 a.m., just when I had hit the snooze button, we had a pretty major earthquake Wednesday morning. So after having been woken up in the middle of the night to calm a panicked employee who was having an anxiety attack, and trying to strategize and think of how to talk her down in the midst of my thick sleep, and finally getting some rest, I was woken up with an earthquake, the size of which is almost a 6.0. And I grew up in California, so I'm used to earthquakes, but you never really are expecting one. And my husband was awake and screaming at our children, "Hurry up, get out of the house." We live in an old house, and if an earthquake goes on long enough, or if it escalates in its magnitude, it's a dangerous thing to be inside. So that was my Wednesday morning, waking up with my nerves frayed from an already disorienting evening, to an earthquake, to sirens, to fires, to power outages, to just a surreal, a foreign feeling of like, what is going on? The bottom is falling out. It just feels like nothing is normal, nothing is tenable, nothing is safe, nothing feels regular, nothing feels like it used to, And it's in those moments, so this is a talk about positivity, right? Like, when are you going to get there, Joe? I just want to say that in the thick of it, if you're really struggling with feeling absolutely like the bottom is falling out and you can't manage yourself, you're exhausted, you're worried, you're sifting and sorting so much stimuli that you're sort of on overload, you're tilting out. I'm not saying, sing "Don't Worry, Be Happy." I'm not saying just put a smile on your face, turn that frown upside down. It's not that simple, and that's sort of a bypass. That's what they would call a spiritual bypass in sort of collective consciousness thought, personal development talk. you don't want to do a spiritual bypass. You don't want to just tell yourself to find the silver lining. You can't just, tell yourself, buck up, tomorrow will be a better day, this too will pass. Think of all the good things that you have. Right in that moment, you actually need to feel your feelings. You need to be able to say to yourself, I'm worked. I'm absolutely overwhelmed with sadness, with having to say goodbye to really good people that I hired, taking people's jobs away, not sure that they're going to be okay and feeling responsible for that. Then worrying about myself and my own family and if we're going to have a job that sustains us and how we're going to cope. And then all of this anxiety that's in the world around us, such that I could get a call at 3 a.m. from somebody who needs me to talk them down off of an anxiety-fueled panic attack. It was just too much. So I actually want this talk to be about feeling your feelings and letting it be okay. That the first step towards emotional healing is actually going into it, going into the pain of it and just acknowledging, I'm a quart low. I'm weepy. My eyes were leaking all week this week. So many things gave me cause to feel sadness, disappointment, grief, hot tears of anger and indignation and things being unfair, to feeling out of control and just exhausted. And it's okay to feel your feelings. In fact, you kind of have to feel your feelings. If you just try to think your feelings, you're not doing it right. If you just try to have a thought that coaches yourself to think a different way, or to tell yourself what you're feeling isn't appropriate, or it would be better if you felt a different way, you're thinking your feelings, you're not feeling them. And that is not a productive way to process what's going on for you. So when you notice that you're thinking your feelings, you need to redirect those thoughts, like it's not fair, or I'm so angry, or I'm overwhelmed, or I don't know if I can do this, or I feel like it's horrible what's happening in this world. We can't control anything. These are thoughts, not feelings. The feelings are here. The feelings are the thing that doesn't have words. So if you find yourself thinking your feelings, my counsel to you is actually to slow your roll and get back into your body and think, what's really underneath that thought? I'm scared. I'm tired. I'm sad. I'm disappointed. I feel cheated. This isn't the year I expected. This isn't the way I wanted it to be. I'm afraid. I feel sad for my children. I feel disappointed on their behalf. I feel grief for the people who lost their jobs. And I'm not even dealing with the people who are sick. If I go there and I feel the terror of all of us knowing that people are getting very sick, people are suffering, that our own loved ones might feel that way, I need to come into clarity that that's a feeling, not a thought. And let that sensation be in my body and just let it be. It's okay to cry. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to sort of even stamp your foot and say, shit, I had plans. I was going to go have spring break in California on the beach. I was going to be surfing. I don't get to do that. This is not the time to tell yourself that other people have it worse than you and you're not allowed to feel badly. You can feel badly. You can feel disappointment. It's true for you. You're just not going to stay in that place. After you have that true feeling and you breathe into it and you let that emotion move around. For me, it was tears. It was just letting it out, just letting it go. Feeling the sadness, feeling the grief. I mean, for us in our little office, my really good friend and I, we've hired so many good people. It's taken us years to build this small office of about 30 people. Really good people who are really good at their jobs and a really good cultural fit for our company. And sort of specialists, people who work in the mailroom or who work in the bike shop or who work on the warehouse floor are not that easy to come by. There's a lot of turnover. It's not a high paying job. It's not a high rewarding job. It took us years to build the team that we have. And so there's a lot of grief, feeling like all of that time, all of that effort, all of that building of talent and developing people in one morning was wiped clean like a whiteboard with an eraser. And no longer all of that work is gone. Not to mention, the humanity of it, the people that we loved, that we enjoyed working with every day. I mean, it's okay to feel that. In fact, it's important to feel that and to recognize it sucks. But after you're in that moment and you're feeling it, something shifts. It might take a while. And this is the challenge a lot of my clients have, is how much of that is indulging negativity? Like I also say, that which you focus on expands. So why would we continue to focus on something negative if we don't want that energy to expand in our life? Well, the answer is you have to focus on what's true. And so if what's true for you is a sense of grief and loss, sadness, uncertainty, nervousness, anxiety, you need to work through some feelings and let it be, with the anticipation that it will shift and that you're not going to indulge it for its own sake. So I'm talking about it now, but it already feels distant. I knew that this was going to be the topic for this weekend, but I'm already having a hard time accessing how terrible I felt this past Tuesday and how terrified I felt Wednesday morning, because it's already shifting. And that's when you realize, then you make a choice. Then you can focus on what you want to have expand. So I've decided that for this next week, I'm going to lead a positivity challenge. And every day I'm going to come on and do a Facebook Live about a specific topic, about how we can focus on a positive outcome and techniques that we can use in our own lives to nurture a more productive, positive, buoyant, upbeat, and likely outcome. We're not just talking about ignoring the negative, we're talking about feeding the positive, and those two things are different. So stay tuned for more. I'll post in my group. It's going to be my lunchtime every day this week. It will be rich. It will be short. It will be humorous. There'll be a lot of storytelling, but I'm going to give you some real world examples of how you can focus on that which you want to expand and really feel a shift in your own life. So with that, I want to say that because you can be honest about that which is painful for you, and you can own it, that you're not perfect, that you're not always put together, that maybe there is a week where you go to work every single day and cry, and you can talk about it. Maybe somebody, maybe a really good friend, maybe people out there in your life will see that pain and acknowledge it and lift you. And so this is my tribute to us becoming all more positive. It was given to me by a very thoughtful and introspective and positive person who instinctively knows that these lessons are true, that which we feed expands, that where attention goes, energy flows. I look forward to seeing you this week on my positivity challenge, and that's what I have for now.